Where it's got the sharp side of its tongue.
It is.
We have 9 minutes, guys. We're going to start on time so we can It is beautiful.
Thanks, Chase. And they may use that during the meeting, but that's good.
Oh my God! Whoops. Actually, the only ticket he's ever gotten is he was driving. I was in the car with him. He got a ticket because he charged for sir, that's my ticket.
You're going to anybody sitting here? No. All right. I'm going to call trouble, right? Yeah, call trouble.
Where you hiding?
No way.
Julia? I'm not here though.
She's there. I know, that's what Pat said. Julie wasn't going to sit here and against us. Oh, I read
I've sat next to her for 2 days in this conference. She's probably had nothing by now.
They actually came from me. But I thought. I know.
Jump close.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I'm supposed to get it back to you. What do you do? See what happens. Give them like Braveheart.
Yeah, like I have, this is the approved calendar. This is the calendar for
Oh, right. I think she brought it up.
Braveheart.
yes. So I have that. So it looks like there
Either
was
a guillotine or a rat.
This one, yes.
Talk to us.
I made sure
Sorry.
to not.
Okay, I didn't know. I knew y'all lived over there. She lived
Well, I didn't know how far I was, I didn't know where it started. Okay, sorry. Gotcha. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. No way that's right.
You're welcome. Hey,
I have to put this on.
The thing.
Nobody's on, they've not missed, they should be, and that's good.
Sorry. How are you?
Good, how are you?
This is just the current
Go to Columbia.
calendar.
Yes, this one says revised.
Oh, good.
We're doing okay. Hopefully the start is kind of other dogs.
That's where it was on Richmond.
Very tired. They love it. And she didn't know.
Where did we end?
We were moving chairs and things are. She didn't know. Gotcha. Actually, after that, I was not allowed to pass this out. I apologize. Now I'm in trouble. And I see that.
I think we can sit anywhere, yeah. I expected to come in and see the tables and I knew where I was going.
Sorry. You have it down.
we're giving you. You want us to have it.
I'd love to do that. No, you're fine.
Hi-lo.
I think they will pass it out. I think whoever created it just wants them to be able to speak about it. Yes, I think that's it. So I don't know who. Do you know who it originated with? So yeah, I can. So that person. Yeah. Okay.
Well, y'all hired these.
I'm giving you a hard time.
What was that? Nice. That's a good answer. Well, good. That's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah. You've done a great job. Like just diving in and it doesn't feel like you're feeling your way through it. It feels like you're doing a great job. It looks like it's prettier from your team. Oh, did you? I forgot you guys did that.
All right, everybody, can you guys hear me? Good. Hey, it's 4:30. I respect your time. I know as much as you love being here that you probably have other places you'd rather be. All right, I'll just orate really loudly. I teach, so I'm used to it. During the last board meeting in September, the Board of Education decided to ask the 2022-2023 calendar committee whether or not it wanted to revise the 2022-23 calendar. That responsibility was the previous calendar committee, the 21-22 calendar committee, but they wanted us to look at it. And so that is what we're going to do today. We're going to look at it, and I will turn it over to Dr. Faison to get us started and let us know how it's going to work, how we're going to vote, and how we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Dr. Faison.
All right, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to re-stress that our purpose today is keep or change the current calendar. We're not talking about any other calendars. Keep or change the current calendar. So the first thing that I just want to do is to highlight for you the state law. We've done that. You have this, okay? So here you have the state laws, and you have the current calendar. This is just for your information. This meeting will be a chance for everyone to have their voices heard. So what we're going to do is, everyone who is on our committee will have an opportunity to share about the implications of keeping or changing our calendar. Once that is done, we'll recap that, and we will vote. Okay? But we have to agree as a committee to live with the consequences, whether they're positive or negative in someone's life, once they are made. I ask that you respect other people's opinion. We have people in here who feel very passionate this way, very passionate that way. And it's okay, because that's what education does for you. But so when someone makes a comment, we want to respect their opinion if we disagree with it. We have students in here, we're going to model the way our democratic process works. Okay? Questions?
Dr. Faison, can I just suggest that we keep our comments to 2 minutes apiece?
Oh, at the long end, at the most. Most of us have some clear things to say, and some just points. You don't have to go 2 minutes if you don't need it, but definitely not go over 2 minutes. Okay? Questions before we get started? We're going to begin. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I do have one quick question
Yes.
that I meant to ask last time.
When we say it's a minimum of 1,025 hours, how many hours is considered a school day?
We count, so we go to school for 6.5 hours.
6.5,
At the
okay.
minimum in elementary.
Okay.
We have to back out recess and lunch. So we count 6 hours.
6 hours, okay.
So if you were to multiply, you have to multiply by 6.
That's fine. I wasn't
No,
sure
you're
exactly
fine.
what the correct
Fine.
number was when I was trying to figure out the
Okay.
days. Thank you.
Any other questions before we start? Is there one side of the room that wants to start first? We do need a recorder. We need someone to write down the implications or the things that are being said, because that's what you're saying, right?
I can do that.
Thank you. So, we do also ask, let me just ask this, if someone has already said what you want to say, you can say it again, but just let her know you're basically repeating, so she doesn't have to try to rewrite that again or keep up, did I hear that? Okay? All right. You want to start, sir?
I'm not gonna lie, I just walked in from one meeting to another. So I was asked to come back, I think, I'm kind of curious to hear what everyone else says. You know, I've heard a lot of say about balanced semesters. I'm kind of curious about the letters training, because I heard at one point that there was money earmarked and put aside for that, for teachers to be able to do that during the workday. As a teacher, I know I need my undesignated work days, so I need as much of that time back as possible. We're completely overwhelmed in elementary school, and it's not getting better. So I'm hoping to, try to come to a solution where we can hopefully find some more time for teachers to complete their job during the workday. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, look, obviously, the calendar should end, the first semester should end in December. Obviously, we do not have that flexibility from the state of North Carolina. We just don't have it. And, my decision last year is the same as this year. What is best for the entirety of our school system? I want that calendar flexibility. We are pushing for it at a state level, and I really hope it gets here. But I think to change a calendar in the middle of the school year after our teachers have based their entire lesson plans for the first semester at high school off of, what we passed would be detrimental. And again, what we're doing is not stunning, unique. It's not even special. We have most of the calendars in the state of North Carolina doing this. We have only ended the semester in December twice. I prefer it, but without that waiver that we had for those 2 years, I don't think it is the responsible thing to do.
I can pretty much agree with what he said over here. As an elementary school teacher, I know a lot of people are very concerned about the balanced semesters and all the effects that it has on high school. But for me in elementary school, it is about more protecting those undesignated work days, all the letters training we have to do. I mean, there's just not time for it. So for me, that's my biggest thing, and that's the biggest thing that I hear from my colleagues in elementary school.
I've talked to several parents. Parents have talked to me knowing that I am sitting on the calendar committee when this was coming back up. Most of the people that I've spoken to are high school parents and high school students. They are very concerned of having that semester bleed into January as well. They prefer it to end in December. Many people have said to me that in January, when they're doing review, it's basically 2 weeks of everything that they've done already, and it can throw them off in terms of their scheduling, especially with kids that are taking college classes, the AP level classes, things like that. So there is a great concern, that it does end in December, the first semester. And they understand that even with hours and things like that it would be an unbalanced schedule, and most people were okay with that.
I'm also a parent with mostly high school, feedback from mostly high school families, and I'm hearing the same thing that Deb heard. They don't care that the fall semester will be shorter than the spring. They want it to end before Christmas. Surprisingly, pretty much of everyone I talked to, without I didn't give my own children much information. I just talked to, asked them about this and that. And my daughter was the only one who said, well, we're not going back and taking finals on January 2nd. We've got 3 weeks before we have to take. She was the only one who seemed to understand that maybe the classes she was taking, she would rather have the right number of weeks before she took the final. But yes, it's overwhelmingly that the parents want finals before Christmas.
I'm here representing elementary schools, so I have my elementary school hat on. I think a big thing on their plate, teacher's plate, is the letters training. That is something that I feel those work days certainly was carefully planned for and are important in there. I'm affirming some of the comments that were already made, that I do feel like, and 50% of our staff, because I did poll them, feels like a change in the schedule right now would be disruptive to plans that they've already made. And then on top of the days that we have for letters, those work days, undesignated work days, are used for instruction, are used for planning for those next weeks. So those are important days in the calendar as well.
Two things. One, I think we all need to recognize that the state legislature, the general statute about calendars, really put us in this box. If we could have the flexibility to start earlier, I think all of this question would go away. My statement, though, is if I was a teacher, say I was teaching high school biology, and I had planned out my calendar and planned out my instruction throughout the course of the whole semester to make sure I hit everything, a change like this would really disrupt my plan.
I'll reiterate what's been shared so far. I do agree that a best case scenario would be that we would have balanced semesters while we end before the holiday break. But calendar law, again, doesn't really give us that opportunity to have those two things together.
My concern right now, in changing the current calendar, is that the traditional work days or the work days that are already in our calendar now have been built in line with the budget, in line with professional development, and also plans that we've submitted to the state. So under general statute, we have to submit our mental health plan to the state. And we're required to provide mental health training to all of our staff that have been hired since June of 2022. That's new statute. And we also have trainings that we have to do for existing staff, but this is greater and beyond. Those are set for traditional work days, specifically October 31st and November 8th, which I think are different from a proposal here that I'm looking at. So we don't have the cost of subs factored into this year's budget because that was not able to be a priority. So we didn't build that in. We'll be unable to comply with general statute if we change the calendar currently. In addition, we are prioritizing within student support services training for our staff, especially our elementary staff, in alternatives to seclusion and restraint. So supporting our staff who are working with students that have the most significant behavioral or emotional needs. And those trainings really can only be provided on work days, as opposed to pulling those staff out and having other untrained staff working with our most vulnerable students. To add to that, we have our curriculum instruction team that works within special education that has planned out all of the trainings that our staff require for evidence-based, specially designed instruction training, and those are on work days. And I don't have a line item in a budget to pay for the subs that would be required should these work days go away.
As a high school principal and a representative from the high schools, along with Mr. McCarty, as we would love to see the semester end before Christmas. However, this year, if we were to change that now, our teachers have their syllabus that's already laid out for the semester ending in January, and so it would be difficult for them to be able to get everything in that they plan to teach before the end of the semester, if it ended in December. If you want to add.
No, I agree. If in a perfect world, it would be logical to end the first semester before the Christmas break. But to try to do that at this point this year would be disruptive. I also think that it would have a negative effect on students who are in academic classes. So, a good example would be math. We would be taking away instructional time for them, especially in Math 1, where Math 1 is the building block for Math 2, Math 3. If we're taking away instructional time from those students that are in Math 1 this semester, that would, I believe, it would have a negative effect on those individual students.
I will speak from an accountability point of view. If we were to move the end of the first semester into December, our courses that provide our school performance grades, our accountability data in high school, that's Math 1, Biology, English 2, Math 3, those students are going to lose 13 days of instruction and be expected to take those assessments, again, that provide our school performance grades, almost 2 weeks early. And so I do have concerns on, with all the data that's already out there and what we've experienced between the pandemic and redistricting, I have a very real concern that our data is going to be negatively impacted, and we may see our school performance grades go even further down than they currently are.
And I can
kind of add on that and then go against that. I do see that. I'm a teacher, so I do see that happening. I've worked English 2 and all the other English courses in the class. However, those 13 instructional days, we're teachers and we're so used to adjusting our calendars. We've had hurricanes, I'm at New Hanover, we've had situations at our school. We're used to adjusting our calendars, so I don't see that as really being an issue. It might take some time to adjust those calendars, but we do it all the time. I also see, yes, we might be down 13 days in the fall. In the spring for AP courses would be up 13 days. We current schedule has 60 days for instruction, if we don't have any days off for anything. So 60 days for instruction, if you've got an AP Chem class, AP Bio class, that's gonna be very difficult. If we adjusted it, such as the revised one, that'd be 73 days for instruction. So for AP courses, for Cape Fear courses, it's a little bit additional time or focus for Cape Fear courses so they could focus on those courses and not have to worry about beginning of a semester at Cape Fear, having to communicate with their professors, they have exams at the high school and having to go back and forth. I think that's tough for students to do when they're first starting out at a community college. So I think we have to consider that as well. I have heard from teachers in my school, most of them would love to see the change. As we were saying, like, we all would want that. There are a few math teachers in my school, though, that did have those concerns of losing that instructional time that reached out to me. But I would say that was a few, and the majority have been saying that they would like to see the switch to before Christmas.
Okay, I'm a student of New Hanover, cross-country athlete, Lyceum student. I know I've heard a lot of things about letters training, mostly the issue with getting rid of that. I know there's calendars made and there's calendars we can make that make sure we build into those letters training into our calendar without removing a ton of days. Most of my teachers I've talked to would love to change their schedule if that means they don't have to make exams after Christmas, and stuff like that. One of the issues was having that instructional time before losing that instructional time for the first semester. I think since it's so close to Christmas, that instructional time is going to be somewhat lost anyway. Because I've had to sit through classes where I've done coloring sheets in math or Spanish, and I'm like, this is not productive instructional time. If teachers rebuilt their schedule to finish before the Christmas break and had all students focused and ready to take their exams before that, sped it up a little bit, I think it would be more beneficial, and I wouldn't think we'd see those losses on tests and stuff like that, because teachers would be building more into their regular school day and having students more focused and stuff like that.
I'd echo a lot of the same things that we've heard already. A concern of mine is the unbalanced semesters, particularly at the high school level, but honestly for electives in middle school as well. I also want to highlight the calendar committee, or the calendar inflexibility at the state level. I would urge all of us to reach out to our leaders in Raleigh. They do actually pick up the phone. I've talked to them. That's something I think we could all agree on moving forward. But also I want to highlight the work days that are in our current calendar and how valuable those are for our teachers to collaborate together, to have PD, and also to reflect a little bit back on last year where we didn't have some of those work days, and we had a lot of teachers saying, you know, they needed a day to catch up, and a lot of times that's what those work days can be used for. I just don't see changing the calendar at this point would accomplish some of those things for our students and staff.
I want to echo a lot of things that have already been said, and letters is probably the biggest thing that I want everyone to think about, and the cost that it will cost the district, not only maybe this year, but if we don't finish with our cohort, it could also cost us additional costs to purchase license, and I know the team will share some information on that. My other thing would be is the balance of semesters for the EOC courses. And I know you're talking to an AP parent, my son's AP, but I know every kid takes EOCs. That is your math, your biology, your English, and those courses will be cut tremendously first semester. And my question is equity. How do we decide who gets the 20 days or the 15 days extra? I don't want it to be my kid that loses. How do we decide that? So that's the thing that I just don't see how we can do that and be fair and say we are here for all children. Because some kids are going to get about 15 days less of instruction that's going to go to their college transcript, just like mine, if I don't have it, if I do have extra 15 days. It's going to impact my scholarship opportunities. So the equity piece, when we say we are here for all students, not those just taking AP and going to CFCC. All of our students take math, English, and science.
I appreciate everybody here and what you've done and what you probably will end up doing. I value your opinion. My support to bring this back to you is the fact that you represent your student body, you represent your faculty, your staff, both at the school level, at the central office, and in between. And so my rationale for this was for you to have another say. There were so many rumors, accurate or not, and so many did you know, or did you understand, or did you not? I thought it was the right thing to do this one more time. And everybody hears everybody say the same thing. You can reflect on what was or was not accurate, and I trust your judgment. You're put on a committee in a leadership position. I feel like we need to listen to those who are going to make the decisions as much as we humanly possibly can. So that's why I supported this meeting, and I look forward to seeing what you do. But I don't think what you do is what we need to do. We need to listen to you. You represent your schools, whatever that might be.
I'm an elementary school teacher, and I did speak to several teachers at my school. As some of us have already mentioned, letters training was a huge issue for the teachers I work with, just making sure that we keep those correlated work days to make sure that we have the time to complete that, as well as complete all the other necessary items that we need to do as teachers. Another idea I had the opportunity this summer to work with Mr. Ed on the pacing guides for math over the summer, and we used the traditional calendar to create that pacing guide. And the pacing guide correlates with our new Eureka curriculum, all the the reading fundamentals that we do, and so changing that we kind of have to reevaluate the pacing that we're using to teach our standards with. And although elementary school teachers don't have exams, we do have benchmark tests. And the dates have been set for those, and the standards that are leading up to those benchmarks are already set within the pacing guide. So I think that would be a change too that we would have to adapt to in order to make sure all the standards are taught by those benchmarks, and make sure that especially new teachers are familiar with how to get that pacing in with a quick change. And I think that's, we've had those pacing guides all year long, but doing a quick switch might be difficult for beginning teachers,
So I support math at the elementary level, and just what I heard last year so much is, well, we don't have time to learn about this math or anything, right? Because we're doing letters on our own time. So my concern supporting those math teachers is the implications of their lost time to actually plan and learn the math that the kids, to be able to instruct there. But then I also had a wondering, and I haven't counted the days, so I don't know, but I heard 12 days of lost, or 13 days of lost instruction, and then you said 12 days going back and just reviewing for 12 days of what they already learned. Are those 12 days going to now be pushed before? So like before the exams, right? So then do they lose really 25 days of true instruction because of moving the calendar so like close to the end of the semester?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I support elementary literacy, and so obviously letters is kind of the biggest thing in my forefront, in the forefront of my mind, and it's been a big undertaking for our teachers to take on as a part of cohort 1, and this is their second year, and for the majority of our teachers, we will complete the course this year. And so we have 850 staff members who are completing that course, and so we've looked at all the options on if a calendar was changed, and so I'm going to pass these down and along the way, but just so you guys can see, because we have tried to problem solve if a calendar change is the right thing for our district, what would that look like for letters? And the way that it was designed was this year, our elementary teachers are able to, our traditional calendar is able to all complete their letters training on one day, so that we only took designated work days, because last year we took undesignated work days, and that we felt like that was an unfair ask. So the other piece that I think was important was that all of the teacher work days weren't consumed by letters, because we do know that is not the only thing on our elementary teachers' plates. They need to learn the curriculums for math and for science and social studies, but they also need time to just work in their classrooms, and so the current calendar gives our teachers the balance of designated versus undesignated work days, where letters doesn't consume that. They also do have, while they have the live training sessions for letters, they also do have online coursework, so those additional work days give them time to work on that, not so that they're not having to do it at night and on their own time, because they are doing that right now. We did reach out to DPI and asked if we made a change in those designated work days, could we just change the letters day? But now all of the districts, all 115 districts in the state of North Carolina are doing letters training. So they said they would definitely look at the calendar with us, and they would make those changes as they could, but it was highly unlikely that we'll be able to get 18 trainers for a different day that we already have planned. So just listed on that sheet is just the cost of if we were able to do substitutes, which also I don't think we currently have the pool to do substitutes on a given day. One session's 45 teachers, so that's asking 45 elementary teachers to be out on the same day. So that's something for us to consider. So if we weren't able to have the subs available for that day, then we would pay our teachers a stipend to do it in the afternoon, like from 4 to 7, or on a Saturday. But, just personally advocating and speaking to elementary teachers, they already have so much to do. They're already doing that online course in some of their own time. I think it's an unfair ask for them to do it at night or on a weekend. So we can definitely try to make it work for letters, but it won't be as seamless as it currently is.
I am a parent. I am a former educator in New Hanover County Schools also, and I'm also a sub. My children are in high school, so I'm just thinking from the high school point as a parent, but also I was an elementary school teacher, so I know what is required of them too. My question as a parent, and a lot of questions that I'm hearing from parents, friends of mine, are why is it September 28th and we're discussing the calendar for this year, and why wasn't it set? It was set in stone, but now parents know this is what this meeting is about, and we're discussing it right now. So that's a problem that parents have posed to me of why are they throwing it back out now saying let's change the calendar. I do think that the calendar should be changed for next year. There are a lot of implications, unfortunately, for days that have been set in stone for designated work days for the teacher. I have seen a few different calendars out there that people have thought of different ways that you could do it. Another thing is for the high school students, when your kid starts kindergarten, you really want your kid one day to be in that high school class and able to take those Cape Fear Community College classes or other classes so they get a higher education before they leave schools in New Hanover County. When you look at the calendar from this year, I don't know how these high school students who are dual enrolled are going to be able to attend a Spanish class that they're taking downtown when they are still enrolled in their last semester's class in January when it starts. Are the professors at Cape Fear Community College going to say, oh, no, you don't, it's fine that you're not gonna be here today. No, they're not. Unfortunately, Laney, Hanover, Hoggard, and Ashley don't have that great communication between the colleges like maybe an early college would have, and that's not fair to those.
Repeat it, but I'm a representative of middle school parents, and I do want to make sure that I say that the majority of parents, all of the parents that I spoke to, you know, we have middle schoolers, but we will soon have high schoolers if we don't already have high schoolers, and they all would love to be able to see the first semester end in December. This year, across the board, everyone thinks that a mistake's been made. We have to live with it. Too many parents, teachers, administrators have put a lot of planning into their schedule, and we'll roll with this year what's been done. But please, please, please learn from past mistakes. And moving forward, you know, all of us are giving our time to be here, and I have to say, I keep thinking about that calendar committee last year, and I'm like, I might be a little disenfranchised if now I put in all that work, and oh look, they're might just sweep it under the table and do something new. There's a lot of thought that's been put into it, you know, so I just want to respect that, and I am honored to be here, and I look forward to working on next year's calendar, but I really hope that we can learn from what we're doing now and when we move forward.
I ditto a lot of what everybody said. Yeah, this is a very hard decision for this group to have to make, especially if we're looking at this year's calendar. It's going to be a lot easier moving forward. I can speak as a parent. I have a high school student. She would prefer to get out at Christmas. I would prefer her not to lose instructional days because she is in Math 3 right now, and I'm very concerned about that. But I do understand just the challenge that we're under.
Hey y'all, I'm an eloper here. I'm not technically on the calendar committee, although I will be talking about this next week when it comes back up on the dais with us. I did a ton of homework looking back at what happened last year, and I can tell you why we are here now. Because before the year started, people started to understand there were issues with this calendar as far as high schoolers were concerned. And what I went back and looked at concerned me, one, because sadly not every meeting had the same calendar committee members, but also there were 4 meetings and 3 out of the 4 were for ending in December. And I don't know what happened that 4th meeting, why it got overridden, who made that decision, but it clearly was not the recommendation of that current calendar committee. And I know we're here now, and I'm hearing, obviously, the issues that are clearly present, but I'm not hearing solutions for these high school students that have to deal with all these concerns. And I know we just brought up a discussion on equity. That is true. If we'd have stuck with the calendar committee, the recommendation last year, the way it should have been done, all 3 meetings, then we would not be here right now. Unfortunately, I don't see any solutions, and we've gotten so many people to contact us. I mean, teachers, parents, students that are very concerned with what's going on with this calendar. I've looked at a calendar. I passed one out just as a guide. Obviously, it is just something that I feel should be at least looked at. It does keep certain letters trainings the same. There are other things on here that, kind of address some of the issues. The holidays stay the same. I've heard from some people that teach AP course sciences that are using a pacing guide that is around 75, 77 days anyway. But there are, like I said, their current concerns are the many concerns that we've been inundated with, and I don't hear any solutions for those students. And I know not every student is dual enrolled, and I know that every student is an AP student, but I also realize that they are important too. So if we are talking, we should talk about that as well. So I would love to hear solutions if, the calendar doesn't end up getting changed, solutions for these students, because we've got one here. We had a group come to us the last time that were really concerned, and they're important to listen to also. So, like I said, I passed one out as a consideration because you guys haven't looked at any other alternative calendars that I'm aware of that at least point out some of the things that might, fix some of the concerns. Now, there's other things I obviously won't know myself, but I'm up to considering whatever. So, thank you.
I I'm Liv Dewalt. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and I want to echo what some of the teachers have said, that our teachers are incredibly resourceful, and that if a calendar change happened, our team would definitely be willing to support them in determining what needs to be compacted for those lost instructional days. I, of course, do echo the concerns about when you lose instructional time, and teachers are then having to decide what content are they going to double up on certain days, what content are they going to no longer prioritize, and not present as deeply to our students. That is a concern of mine, and so whatever the committee decides, our team is definitely willing to help teachers make those choices. As in terms of letters, thank you, Ms. Hill, for presenting. I do want to just point out for the calendar committee that if any letters dates are changed by our decisions, and we're not able to complete letters by the end of June, there are some fiscal implications for that, because we not only then have to pay for trainers to come in that otherwise the state would be training, but we also have to pay for the online licenses for that. So we are willing to work with Lexia. They're the DPI Early Childhood Committee. We've been in constant contact with them about this, about what it would look like if any letters dates do get shifted. But I just want people to be aware that there are financial implications, and those funds are currently earmarked and state approved for some items that we were planning to buy for early literacy. Obviously, we would shift those funds to make sure that our teachers were covered, but I just want people to know any dates that are changed for letters, if we're not able to work it out with Lexia, there are some fiscal implications there.
I'll be brief and come from a communication-specific point of view for the district. I think a lot about building trust and credibility with a very large audience. I think about numbers a lot. And to do so requires steady state communications. And to take this action now, this far in the year, in my opinion, is destabilizing to this community. And so for that reason, and for this large number of folks that would be affected, I'm not in favor of changing it this year. I understand the passion on both sides. I understand some excellent points on both sides. But we're talking about relatively small number of input, even if we talk hundreds to thousands, to the 30,000 folks this would impact if we take this decision this year. So I'm not in favor of changing it now. I'd be in total favor of looking to do so in the future.
I'm Deanna Leak, principal at Carolina Beach Elementary School, representing elementary principals. So, I think one thing we can all agree upon is that one thing we can all advocate for is flexibility in state calendar laws, because that definitely has tied our hands in a lot of ways, and that was the exact same conversation we were having in calendar committee meetings last year. What I would say, and we again spoke to this last year, our high school students have got some high stakes. They're facing college admissions. Their immediate future is directly impacted by what happens right now for our high school students, and that's huge, and that's something I think we have to prioritize moving forward. With that said, especially looking at, and you guys have done some great work here, looking at this breakdown of cost, it is hard to justify potentially giving up, sacrificing some of these resources to change the calendar now. I think it's too heavy of a lift and too large of a cost. If we were having this conversation 6 months ago, I would have a very different answer. But right now, I think the burden is just too big.
I'm speaking from a high school perspective, representing CTE predominantly. I've talked to any number of teachers and students that I come in contact with, and in assessing the calendar as it stands today versus what it was last year, they're overwhelmingly supportive of what we had last year, where the semester ends at the time in which the holidays arrive. Now, of course, in CTE, we have a little bit of flexibility in that we close out our end of course exams with that of credential exams. So students arrive at that point on a sliding scale, as it were. So we don't have fixed dates in which we test out. At the same time, even those that are in those courses where they do have EOCs that do arrive on a fixed date, many have advocated to me that they've said that they would be willing to put in the extra time to prepare for those exams, with the interest being that they wrap up in time for the holiday break as opposed to after the holidays come January. So when looking at the pros and the cons, and I realize it's not a level playing field because this impacts elementary, middle, and high school in varying ways, in speaking to any number of teachers that have advocated for the same change in the school calendar, one common theme seems to be steady across the bow, and that is adaptability. Everybody, students and teachers alike, are willing to adapt in the interest of being able to wrap up the semester by the end of the calendar year. And obviously, it makes a big difference whether they're able to control their schedule or not. And one of the things that we are allowing in our courseware, I know, is that ability to, bend and not break, but bend and flex the schedule as needed to get the material in time to be successful with your EOC exams. So I'm a big believer in adaptability. I think as teachers and students alike, we all have that built-in capability to flex with the schedule. And if this means an opportunity presents itself this year to move this calendar up to where we can wrap up in December, I think more and more students and teachers will be satisfied, at least from those that I'm advocating for here today.
Thank you. I'm Judy Joseph. I'm a member of the board. I'm not on the committee, but I'm going to have to help make this decision when it comes down to it. First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. As somebody said, they could be with their family, I could be with mine. And also, I would like to apologize. 2 months ago, we knew about this problem. Majority of the board wanted to deal with it, but we were blocked from internal political, and I'm not talking about parties, I'm talking about the way people work together. And because of that, we're sitting here now, and we could have had this solved months ago, at the beginning of the school, when the problem became very apparent to everybody. Now, Ms. Walker, did you hand out the calendar to everybody? There has been a lot of input from a lot of people, and there is a calendar that still contains the letters training. They were talking about state law and money. You've got the second semester to do a lot of these things you're concerned about as far as having it completed by the end of the school year in time. So you don't have to worry about the legal end. And you don't have to worry about the money in either, because you can put those teacher work days in there. So a lot of this stuff is red herrings. We want to do absolutely the best thing for all the kids. We're talking about 1/3 of our kids, and some of them are going to be really devastated by this. I am probably one of the few people up here that has taught both calendars. I've also had to be extremely flexible. I've got over 10 years in the classroom, 20 years as administrator. I've had to be very flexible. Teachers can do it. As far as the pacing guides go, thank you for being here. I'm sure you can help them with it. That's why you're here.
Our teachers are very resourceful.
Right, teachers are amazing. And I know the elementary schools and the middle schools care enough that they want to care about the high school kids and help them out. This might just be 1 year, but this is a crucial year for thousands of students. And the mess with Cape Fear, the mess with these AP courses, and I got a high school kid at home. I've custody of him. And he's going to sit on his, because he's not, he's a normal average kid. He's going to be a winter break kid that's going to do what kids do winter breaks. Or, I've had overachievers. And the overachievers would sit home and be worried and study all during the time of winter break. When you get back in January, if we don't end the semester in December, what's going to happen? And that's somebody was talking about 25 days. They were a little confused. It was a math person. What they're talking about is when we come back, teachers are going to spend probably 2 weeks reviewing them because those kids will be brain dead. And it's not their fault. They need that mental break. But so that's 2 weeks right there. You're talking about the differentials in days. It might as well be going up in smoke. So it's not 25 days. It's probably a good couple weeks, one way or the other. And so, I am so sorry we got to this point, and it had to be this way. And I take blame. I'm on the board. I really do blame us. I really do blame us. And as I said when we started pushing this, when it first became apparent, when you make a mistake as a human being, we should all teach this to our children. You can correct it if there's a means, solutions, as Ms. Walker says. And if we can't admit mistakes and work to correct them, especially with all this wonderful information everybody's bringing, which shows that we can overcome all of this, then, we're not doing our jobs as adults when it comes to our kids.
I'm Jennifer Brewer. I support NHCS throughout the district, pre-K through 12th grade. So really, I just reiterate some of these points that have been said. We have certainly spent a lot of time planning for letters PD through student support, all of those pieces. And Those dates are planned, so that would definitely be impacted and impact us fiscally. I have also had the opportunity to speak to teachers at every level because I support pre-K through 12th grade, and I have not spoken to a teacher to this point that has been for a change right now. Like everyone said, yes. Would we like a change for next school year? Would we like to talk to our legislators about a change? Absolutely. But to this point, I haven't spoken to anyone that feels like on September 28th or October 4th when the board votes, that the best thing to do for our students would be a change at that point.
We have a calendar committee member who, there is a seat. You want to come up here because we're streaming so they can hear whatever your thoughts are.
I wanted to speak on behalf of the Math 1 students. As you know, Math 1 is a big barrier to graduating high school. And it's hard, and given the pandemic, we're struggling a little bit. I think our results show that. Hearing about the 13 or 15 days, that's a unit and a half of our Math 1 standards. Like a little more than a sixth of our whole curriculum that students would miss. And to Dr. Barnes's point, if I'm that biology teacher or math teacher or whatever teacher, what am I cutting out in order to finish, in order to get everything covered? I'm probably cutting out labs. I'm probably cutting out all of the projects that keep students engaged. And for some of our Math 1 students at the high school level, like that, those are the things that keep them going. And so I'm really concerned about them missing so much instructional time. I do agree that we've become very adaptable and flexible, but haven't we done that enough? Can't we just stick with what we have? Teachers they're going crazy with all of these changes that we're putting on them. And so finally, I do see the concern with the AP students and the dually enrolled. But in my opinion, it'll be easier to find solutions to make that work for those students than it will be to figure out how to make up so much lost instruction for the Math 1 students. And really, a lot of those students struggle to graduate because they don't have that solid foundation in Math 1 that leads all the way through high school. That's it. Thank you.
All right. I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I want to make sure we're respectful of everybody's time.
Right.
So I would like to go ahead and ask for a vote. We can do it by a show of hands, or we can do
Question. I'm not on the committee. Are you on the committee?
You're on the committee.
Are you on the calendar committee?
Both of you are. You are too.
This is the 22-23 calendar committee. We are both on it.
The 23-24?
Yes,
But-
this is this committee. This is the
Well, we're
23-24
doing
committee.
22-23, so you want us to vote?
Yes, because you're on the committee.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
So yeah, I would ask every committee member to go through. Should we start?
No, we're going to actually, you have,
There's questions.
okay.
Student over here has a question.
Can I ask a question?
He owns it.
I just have a few questions. One of the things was the 12 days of review brought up, that we'd be losing 25 days. Don't we already have 12 days of review built, and anybody can answer this, built into the end after Christmas break? So wouldn't we really just be losing 1 day of actual instructional time? Because 13 minus 12 equals 1. So 13 days we're losing for that first semester, 12 days of review built in, 13 minus 2, 1 day of actual instructional time. I think teachers can make up 1 day.
One question. Wouldn't, even if they ended before Christmas, wouldn't the teachers build in review time too anyway?
That's what they were saying.
Couldn't that be, most of these on-level classes don't have that much homework at all that like most of my on-level classes or honors classes never had homework. So couldn't these teachers stipend some of that through homework? We have work days built in, we have some other things. Could that be stipend through homework with the help of some, like, yeah.
So I'm going to jump in and say, the 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks in January, I know we're all saying they just review, but we all know that teachers teach that time. Anybody who has been an educator knows that the teachers are still teaching. They are going to do some review when it gets closer to exam, but 3 weeks of review is not what we normally do. And if we do finish, we still, even if it's a Math 1 class or a Math 3 class, it might not be an AP class, but they're still going to do some review. And to do it in homework is not the same as doing that review you do in class. So I would answer it that way.
I think teachers already have these abilities they've built in through COVID and all this online learning stuff to where it is closer now to be able to do some of this stuff at home because they've already done those tactics, and those teachers who don't have that yet can get that help from teachers who are more experienced. Another question I had is about the letters training, the fiscal implications. I'm confused about October 5th costing so much, and also March 28th. Because those on the approved calendar are designated teacher work days.
Yeah, so letters training they're allotted for a designated teacher work days, but we were saying that if October 5th was changed, and it was changed to a non-teacher work day, this would be the fiscal implication in the column.
So let me add this point for you, Colin. The calendar that is here, it took those same work days, but what we do is we make a work day after the grading period. So the work days are not just sporadically placed. Teachers have to have a work day after grading period. So if the work day, like on the calendars come around, if the work day, if the grading period ends, I don't know, whenever, because I really haven't looked at it.
The grading period ends on the
March
21st.
10th, right?
Nope, 21st for October.
On the one that's coming around, I was looking at the one that's coming around.
You're good.
Maybe I have a
that is the
different one.
revised one.
Okay, so anyway, what we do is we take, and teachers have to have a day after the grading period ends, and that's when the workday falls. So we just to take these work days and just make them the same, unless the grading period is the same, it wouldn't work for teachers and for the grades. Does that make sense?
So that would be after the first grading period, but you say that letters training needs to be after the second grading period.
No, the entire calendar could change because.
So I think our letters days aren't just the work day that's after the grading period. The current calendar allotted us more designated work days so that we were able to choose work days throughout the year. So they don't always correlate with the end of the 9 weeks. But what Dr. Faison is saying is that if we had to make a change and those teacher work days have to shift at the end of the 9 weeks, then our letters days would not stay the same. And so then that would be we don't know if they would have enough trainers at Lexia to make that change. And so the fiscal implications would come if that had to happen on an instructional day, or teachers had to do it on their own time.
Are you legally required to change those days to different days that can't be these designated work days that are on the revised calendar?
So if I could just, for a moment about the revised calendar, I don't think Dr. Faison, have you seen it before this?
I'm looking at it now, so.
I don't think our administration's seen it, I don't think anybody's seen it. So we would have to adopt it as a committee. And I only just saw it now, I don't know who saw it before, but I only just saw it now, so it might work, but we would have to decide that as a committee. We'd have to come back together and decide that as a.
Yeah, so one of Mr. McManus's reasons for voting on us meeting was that all of this information brought up at the board committee would be presented to this committee. So the fact that we're not doing that right now and we're not looking at this calendar that was at the board meeting is not correct.
I never had a calendar, sir.
It was on the table at the board committee. I saw it multiple times.
Okay, so this calendar was this calendar, I think all the information was here, but this was not a calendar that the board had provided. I think it was just shared. So, I'm gonna say one thing, like, I've been able to see this, but I didn't look at this calendar to say this is the board's calendar and this is what they're saying, because I heard this calendar, didn't know, I don't know if it's true or not, I think this calendar came from a teacher. We would have to go and look at the law. I have not done that. I have not done and seen if this calendar matches, but I would like to say, before we go that far, we need to determine if we're gonna keep and change.
I brought it, and that's why I wanted to speak about it, because I feel like, I know I personally have put a lot of time in looking at this, considering all the things that were brought up at the past 2 meetings, watching all the old calendar committees, and I feel like I've heard discussion on flexibility. We got a student here. I just don't want us to get locked into this process where there is a predetermined decision that's already going to be made, and we can't look at alternatives. I feel like the fact that we're here because the board decided to bring it back here means we should be looking at alternative calendars, not just going, you know what, let's just decide this, that, or the other. I feel like people should be able to look at an alternative and go, well, maybe that will work, and we'll see how we can make it work if we can. Not like, oh, let's just make a decision because off the top of our heads. As far as, me doing my homework for last year, there are so many people that understand that December is a good reason, and it does shorten the semesters. But, if you guys go back and look at those meetings, they will have all these questions that we are sitting here talking about. That's why they decided to stick with it. Miraculously, a 4th meeting, a whole completely new calendar. So going forward, I would like, whatever happens at our meeting, going forward, we should really be looking at as many alternatives as we can, not just make a decision based on what we don't know. And that is why I brought this forward, because I've been trying to listen to what you guys said as far as what the issues were and see if we can make a calendar that would work.
So I guess what I was saying is the charge that the board gave this committee was to figure out whether to change the calendar. So the first thing we do is decide whether or not we change the calendar. And then we have to decide what we change it to. With regards to last year's committee, I know there are some members who brought it. We made a decision to end Christmas break, end that first semester, and then we received a call. I received a call from Dr. Smith saying, actually, after looking at the calendar, I don't think that's best, probably because she saw some of the other questions. Anyway, I think that we should go ahead and move toward. Yeah.
I just want to add one more piece that I think is an objective point of view. One thing that we focused on a few weeks ago were the instructional hours, and Dr. Faison brought up a good point about the year that we were 17th in the state was the 18-19 school year. And I think, we talked a lot about the instructional hours. I think one thing that got lost in that people brought up is we lost almost 3.5 weeks of instruction to Hurricane Florence. The reason that we performed is because as teachers, I was in the district at the time, we sat down and we said, what can we cut that's not important to get to the meat of what we need? And I had some of my best test scores. Actually, I had 76% proficiency the year before and 75% that year. And there's literally the only difference because I had one less student. So I had the same amount of students that passed. We can do it, but I think we need to focus on what's at hand. And if we're going to use data, we need to use true data. We need to reflect. I don't think it's the instructional hours, and I told Dr. Barnum this as well. It's what you do in those hours as a teacher. And then it's effective instruction, and I think that's what makes the difference. I'll leave it at that.
So, Mr. Clark is going to pass out a sticky note, and the question that you have right now is, do we keep or do we change? That's it. Do we keep or do we change? And then if we need to go further, we will, okay? Keep, change.
Should ask the question.
Is it possible?
Thank you.
Those are the three big ones. Hard expression. That's probably the teacher.
I'm not gonna lie, I was just working out, someone just asked me, was it yes to change?
Keep or change, one word.
Keep, so it's keep or change.
I can't sit very long anyway with my new.
Thanks, John.
Oh, we good. Just let it go. Figured out what it's for. So it's only, I've been told it. Oh, okay.
I'm not looking so
And with the county, I don't care what your answer is, but just have the
One other thing, just looking forward, I mean, you know, just talking to my friends, high school friends, I don't know that I've talked to one yet that's a proponent of testing after. And I've had friends that have done both and seen significant drops in their scores, but I've also, I mean, I have heard some that are like, want to do whatever,
All right, so now we are going to have Mr. Clark open the votes and just put them up there, and then we'll count, and we'll do the next step. If there are any next steps.
I think it really bothered me last time I was 18, 19 years old in high school. It was like, that was what bothered me. You can't use flawed data. You have to be, data needs to be transparent. As a teacher, I had to what am I cutting if they want to change. And I hate that there's money set aside for teachers to be able to do weather training, like during the day. Because it's all built up. It's like, so it's like this year I don't even teach reading. So it's literally a checkbox item. Because I teach math and science.
Someone wrote no, so I'm going to discard this because I don't know if that means to keep or to change.
Kind of hard to answer to you. Good call.
We hope it's not a tiebreaker. Yeah. Oh, God. Right? If you guys will give us the numbers of the vote, and Mr. Boyer, you'll take the next step of the meeting, either what we're gonna do if we need to change it, or if it's keep, how many, well. So you have the data here, Mr. Boyer, did you see it? There it is, right there.
I'm big on if you're going to use that.
Sorry. You see the numbers up there?
Yes. All right, so the committee is to keep the current calendar for the 2022-2023 school year. If there is no further business, I guess we can go ahead and adjourn and start focusing on the 2023-24 school year. Guys, there's one thing I ask you to do. We are not God. The North Carolina State Legislature is as close as it gets in the state of North Carolina and the state calendar. We need that flexibility. We need it. We have to have it. There's no reason we can't do 1 week back and get our, I mean, we are coming out of one hell of a pandemic, as you all know. Our kids need to take priority. That's 1 week. It ain't gonna kill any business in New Hanover County. 1 week. We really, really need it. So what I need you guys to do, if you could please, get on the phone to your state legislatures, advocate for the change the same way we did here, and call all your friends across the state of North Carolina. I'll call all my board member friends across the state. But please, let's make sure that we can try to change this for next year, because it really has to be done.
I know all the parents are going to ask me, why can Pender do it, but we can't? Why? I mean, why do we have to contact our state legislators if Pender's doing it?
You can do it. It's not a question of not being able to do it. It's about what the trade-off is. And the trade-off in this case is Math 1, biology, and English students aren't going to have that extra time. And it's not 2 weeks. It's almost 3 weeks of school. 13 days is almost 3 weeks of school. So yeah, we can do it. And we can do it next year. Without the flexibility, I don't think it's what's in the best interest of our entire system, but we can do it. So that would be my urge. If there's no further business, you
And
can
I just
close
want to
this
make
out.
the announcement, the next calendar meeting is October the 19th. I ask that if you can, please make sure you're here. You will get an invite, of course, but it is October the 19th. Thank you so much for your time.
I just had a meeting. About to say, what? 6:30, I'm crawling in bed.
Get my 20-pound
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Great to sit and listen to you.
The district is good for class.
What's the next one?
It's obviously.
October 19th.
It's being checked out. Let's make sure.
Absolutely. Just that's the beginning now, but
Yeah, it's both.
You too.
Yeah. I didn't know because my kids going out. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That, yeah. Like this, that's fine. I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. Really and guess what?
That was a solution right there. That was a very
What if those kids don't have internet access? What if the kids don't have internet access? The kids? The kids don't have it, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, they all done. Yeah.
Appreciate you, Jerry.
She's right about the attendance.
We appreciate
And I know I did it, but no one still got
I just, stuff like this, it's like obviously.
Are they really not in the box? We're not in the
Like, I feel like if they gave back
You did such a good job.
Yeah, you did. It really did.
And you did a good job. You were well spoken.
Right. Yes, yes.
John, for real, thank you for all the data agreements. We appreciate you. No, you don't. You guys will stop.
So that's one of these things that is, yes, like there's a big trade-off. It's really motivating, and happy and involved.
Where's your buddy?
Anyways, stop talking to her. Good job. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Excuse me.
They're just like, they're kind of saying solutions with it. They're getting this, not on those campuses, like that was the biggest thing. One of Mr. McManus's things was this information to be presented to this committee. And I was not presented one piece of evidence other than you. And okay, I guess those things in the beginning of those state laws and stuff, and really we weren't deciding on whether we were deciding on whether to change the calendar and what implications that would have. Not to worry about state laws and
Oh, that's right, bye-bye.
it's not
Bye-bye.
Well, you keep focusing on the most of those kids, okay?
Absolutely, that's all I'm here for.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of the committee, to the board. Yes.
I tried so hard.
No, this is how you learn.
Yeah.
This is how you, because you're the leader.
If you need anything, let me know.
And start, I love seeing them start this young, because if I had known at your age, when I know you
You don't have to tear this down, you just-
I could have made a much
Yeah,
better
tomorrow,
decision
right?
about helping, because I'm, yeah, I'm sorry, helping people, so, when you get a taste.
Do you have a calendar?
Did you hear what I said? Everything I said was true.
Yeah.
It was our fault. We, the elected officials,